My daughter, Emma, wasn't invited to the class photo. She doesn't have the right clothes, the teacher whispered. The kids laughed. I watched her lower her head and walk away until a black car pulled up outside the school. A man in a suit stepped out, holding a camera. When I saw Emma sitting alone on the bench, while the rest of her class gathered for their photo, I felt something crack inside me. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. Value her hands folded in her lap, like she was trying to disappear. Moments earlier, I heard her teacher lean in and whisper to another staff member, "She doesn't have the right clothes." And just like that, they told my 9-year-old daughter she wasn't good enough to be seen. A few kids laughed. One boy pointed at her dress and said, "Is that from a thrift store?" I watched her lower her head. She didn't say a word. She didn't fight back. I stood there, frozen, holding the paper cups I'd volunteered to bring for picture day. My hands were shaking. I wanted to walk over and scream. I wanted to tell that teacher exactly what I thought of her, but I didn't want to make it worse for Emma. And then, just as I was about to walk to my car, a black car pulled up in front of the school. A man in a dark suit stepped out, holding a professional camera. He adjusted his tie, looked straight at Emma, and smiled. "Let's make some magic," he said. Mornings in our house were always a little chaotic, but on picture day, we tried to make it special. I had gotten up an hour earlier than usual just to iron Emma's dress. It was sky blue with tiny embroidered stars across the chest. Nothing fancy, but it was her favorite. She'd picked it out from a donation bin at church 3 months ago. It was a little big at the shoulders and a little short at the hem, but she loved how the skirt twirled when she spun in circles. "Come here, baby," I called from the kitchen, balancing a buttered bagel in one hand and a comb in the other. "Let's fix your hair." Emma shuffled in quietly. She was never much of a morning person, her oversized backpack dragging behind her like a shadow. I patted the chair, and she climbed up. Looking at me through the mirror we had stuck to the back of a cabinet with masking tape. "Do I look okay?" she asked softly, her fingers twisting together in her lap. "You look beautiful," I said, sweeping her brown hair into a ponytail. "Gorgeous. The prettiest girl in 4th grade." She tried to smile, but I saw the worry behind her eyes. Emma wasn't like the other kids in her class. She was quiet, thoughtful, and often got lost in her own world, while the other girls obsessed over dance trends and designer backpacks. Emma drew hummingbirds in the corners of her math homework. She had a gentle heart, the kind that got bruised easily. Ever since her dad died 2 years ago, she'd grown more inward, like her soul had found a corner and curled up in it. We were managing, barely. I worked mornings at a local diner and evenings cleaning offices downtown. Every dollar had to stretch, and there were plenty of nights when dinner was just eggs and toast. But I tried to keep things normal for Emma. She didn't complain, not once. She'd taped the flyer for picture day to the refrigerator a week ago, circling the date in pink marker. "Can you come to school that day?" she asked. They said parents can help set up. I'd already picked up an extra shift that morning, but I called in and said I couldn't make it. Emma didn't ask why, she just hugged me and said, "Thank you." That morning, I packed her lunch extra carefully. I even slipped in a cookie I'd saved from the diner's tip jar. We walked to school together, like we always did, hand in hand, past houses with manicured lawns and cars that hummed instead of rattled. I tried not to notice the other kids in newer clothes, or the moms in yoga pants, with lattes in hand. I didn't want Emma to notice either. As we got closer to the school, she slowed down. I felt her grip tighten around my fingers. "I hope Miss S. Thompson likes my dress," she murmured. I knelt beside her, fixing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Emma, sweetheart, you wear what you love. That's what makes it special. You don't need anyone's approval." She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. When we got to the front steps, a cluster of parents and teachers were already gathered around the gym entrance. Balloons framed the door, and a folding table held snacks and little props, tiny chalkboards that said things like "Class of 2033" and "Picture Perfect." Miss S. Thompson stood nearby, clipboard in hand, her mouth pursed into what she probably thought was a smile. She was the kind of teacher who always looked like she was smelling something unpleasant. Emma gave a little wave, but the woman didn't wave back. Instead, her eyes did a quick scan of Emma's outfit, pausing just a second too long. I felt my stomach twist. I set down the bag of paper cups I brought and knelt beside my daughter again. You're going to do great. Okay. Just be yourself. All you ever need to be. Okay, she whispered. She took a deep breath and walked toward the group. I stayed back, watching her small frame among the other kids. She looked so proud in that moment, so ready, so hopeful. If I had known what was about to happen, I never would have let go of her hand. Emma stood near the edge of the gym with the rest of her class, nervously smoothing the front of her dress. She kept checking the little mirror in her hand, adjusting her ponytail, trying to tuck in the wild strands. She was doing what so many kids do when they want to feel accepted, quietly working to make herself smaller, neater, more invisible. I stood off to the side with the other parents, clutching a stack of napkins I brought. It was warm in the gym, stuffy with the smell of hairspray and cupcakes. The kids buzzed with excitement. A photographer was adjusting lighting equipment at the front of the makeshift photo backdrop, blue-gray sky, painted clouds. The words Class of 2033 written in gold letters across the top. Miss S. Thompson's voice cut through the chatter. Okay, everyone, find your buddy and line up by height. The kids scrambled into rows. Emma hovered near the back, unsure where to go. She was taller than some of the girls, shorter than most of the boys, and clearly hesitant. I could see her eyes darting around, looking for a place where she fit. That's when it happened. Miss S. Thompson leaned over and whispered something to the teaching aide beside her. I couldn't hear it clearly, but I caught one phrase, one that sliced straight through me. She doesn't have the right clothes. The aide glanced at Emma, then nodded slightly. Emma, sweetheart, Miss S. Thompson called, her voice saccharine sweet, but edged with condescension. Why don't you wait over there by the bench for a little bit? Emma looked confused. She took a hesitant step forward. Just for a moment, Miss Essie, Thompson said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We're working on the class layout. I saw the moment it clicked for Emma. She stopped, turned, and without saying a word, walked to the wooden bench at the side of the gym, sat down, and folded her hands in her lap. The other kids didn't miss it. One boy, the kind who always had something cruel to say, snickered. Guess picture day is only for people who shop at the mall. Another laughed. Nice dress. Goodwill girl. I couldn't move. My entire body locked up. My daughter, my beautiful, brave, quiet girl, was sitting alone while the rest of her class got ready to be photographed. The teacher didn't say she couldn't be in the picture outright. No, she did something worse. She made her feel like she didn't belong. I took a step forward. My mouth opened. I wanted to say something. I wanted to demand that they include her, but I stopped. What would I be walking into? Would I be labeled the angry mum? Would it humiliate Emma even more? She was already curled in on herself, like a flower closing under cold. I looked around. None of the other parents said anything. Some were too busy chatting. A few had definitely heard the comment. They looked away. I knelt and pretended to straighten the napkins I brought, trying to calm the storm rising inside me. I kept glancing back at Emma. She didn't cry. That's what gutted me the most. She didn't even look upset, just resigned. Like this wasn't new to her. Like she'd already learned what the world thought of girls like her. The class photo was taken without her. Flash.click.laughter. I stood frozen, trying not to cry in front of strangers, trying not to crumble. The event wound down quickly after that. Kids grabbed juice boxes. Parents snapped selfies with their children. Emma remained on the bench, her hands now clenched in her lap. She didn't move until the crowd began to thin. She walked over to me slowly, her eyes still dry, but dull. Can we go now? She asked quietly. I nodded. Yeah, let's go. We walked out of the gym together in silence. My grip on her hand tighter this time, fiercer, protective. Outside, the sun had started to break through the clouds, but all I felt was cold. As we reached the edge of the parking lot, I turned to her and asked, "Do you want to do your own picture day?" She looked up at me, confused. What do you mean? I mean, we don't need them to see you. We just need the right lens. That was the moment I pulled out my phone and texted Daniel Vega. I hadn't spoken to him in nearly a year, not since he moved to a bigger city to take on more private clients. He used to work with my husband, Michael, before the accident. Daniel was a wedding photographer back then, the best I'd ever seen. He'd helped us take one of the only family portraits we ever had, all three of us smiling under a tree in our backyard, Michael lifting Emma onto his shoulders. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a second. Then I typed, "Hey, are you still doing photos? I need something special today if possible." It's for Emma. I hit send and started walking. I didn't tell Emma anything yet. I could feel the weight in her steps beside me, heavy, dragging, like she was trying to disappear with every footfall. We walked past the playground, through the parking lot, and toward the little hill behind the school, where the pickup area ends and the sidewalk begins. My phone buzzed in my hand. I'm 10 minutes away. Say the word. I'll be there. My chest tightened. I typed back 2 words. Please come. Emma and I sat down on the edge of a low stone wall by the curb. The sun was higher now, warm against our faces. I reached into my bag and handed her a juice box I brought for after the event. She took it silently, poked the straw in, and stared at the ground as she sipped. Do you remember Daniel? I asked gently. She nodded, not looking up. He's the camera guy. Yeah, the one who took that picture of you and Daddy with the hose in the backyard. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. He's coming to take your picture, I said. Just for you. Not because someone told him to. Not because there's a backdrop or a list, but because he knows how special you are. She looked at me then, her eyebrows slightly raised. Why? Because they didn't see you in there today, I said, pointing back toward the school. But I did, and he will. She didn't say anything, but she reached out and held my hand. Minutes passed. I kept checking the street. Then I saw it, the sleek black car pulling up to the curb, shining like it had just rolled off the lot. It looked comically out of place in front of the elementary school. The door opened, and out stepped Daniel Vega. He looked exactly the same. Black slacks, fitted grey blazer, shirt unbuttoned just enough to make him look like the kind of guy who belonged in a magazine. A matte black DSLR hung from a strap across his chest. He scanned the sidewalk, spotted us, and smiled. Emma, he called, walking over. I heard we've got a photo emergency. Emma blinked, staring at him like he wasn't real. Daniel knelt in front of her. I'm Daniel. We met when you were little. I used to chase you around with a camera. You hated it. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I don't hate it now. He grinned. That's what I like to hear. Ready to make some magic. She glanced at me. Unsure. Only if you want to, I said softly. Emma nodded. We walked across the field behind the school to a small grove of trees. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom, delicate petals drifting down with every breeze, like tiny pink snowflakes. Daniel set up quickly, placing a light reflector on the grass, switching lenses, adjusting his angle. He took a test shot, checked the screen, and looked at Emma. Okay, he said. Let's do one where you're just standing tall, chin up, arms loose, looking past me like you're dreaming of something big. She did it. Perfect, he said sig. Click. Now give me a little spin, hair twirl. That's it. Click, 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 click. Emma started smiling, not a forced smile, not a school photo smile, but a real one. The kind that sneaks up on you and bubbles out before you can stop it. Daniel lowered his camera. You're a natural, he said. She beamed. I stood off to the side, arms crossed against my chest, not because I was cold, but because if I didn't hold myself together, I'd cry not from sadness, from the overwhelming relief of seeing her light come back. This wasn't just a photo shoot. It was a quiet reclaiming of her worth, a soft but powerful reminder that she mattered. And this time, someone was capturing it. Daniel showed Emma the back of the camera. She leaned in, blinking at the screen, like she wasn't sure that girl strong, radiant, glowing in soft sunlight was really her. She looked older in the photos, not in a sad way, not like the weight of the world had aged her, but like she had stepped into something new, like someone who had seen the worst part of her day and still stood tall enough to be remembered. I look good, she said, blinking. You look like yourself, Daniel replied, and that's more than good, that's rare. She smiled again that time. It reached all the way to her eyes. He took a few more shots while she played with a nearby branch, holding a single cherry blossom between her fingers like a tiny crown. Then, like the moment knew it had done its job, the light softened, the wind slowed, and Emma let out a breath, like she had just exhaled something heavy she'd been carrying for years. Daniel packed up. I'll send you the edits tonight. You'll have prints tomorrow. You don't have to rush, I said. He looked at me with that old friend smile, the one that reminded me of Michael. Yes, I do. Trust me. We walked back to the front of the school. just as the last few parents were trickling out, chatting and loading leftover balloons into the back of a minivan. I spotted Miss S. Thompson near the gym door, clipboard under her arm, giving instructions to the aide, who had stood silently beside her during the exclusion earlier that morning. She turned toward us. Her eyes flicked from me to Daniel, then to the camera hanging over his shoulder, then to Emma. She did a double take. Emma was no longer dragging her feet or looking at the ground. She was walking straight, steady, her shoulders back, and she wasn't letting go of my hand. We stopped beside the gate. I didn't say a word. Daniel, however, had no such restraint. He pulled a sleek black card from his wallet and handed it to her. "Vega Studios," he said with an easy smile. "Feel free to reach out next time you want everyone included." He didn't wait for her to respond. He turned back to us and gave Emma a playful salute. "You were incredible today." She grinned and gave him a tiny wave. Miss S. Thompson didn't say anything, just looked down at the card like it might bite her. We got in the car and drove home, windows down, the spring air brushing through our hair, like the world was trying to start fresh. Emma leaned her head against the seat and hummed a little tune under her breath. She hadn't done that in a long time. When we got home, she went straight to the bookshelf and pulled down the old photo Daniel had taken years ago, the one of Michael lifting her into the air, both of them mid-laugh. She stared at it for a minute, then looked up at me. "Do you think Daddy would have liked the pictures?" I didn't even hesitate. He would have framed every single one. He'd probably carry them in his wallet and show them to strangers. She giggled, the kind that starts deep and rises like bubbles. "You think he'd put one on the fridge?" "He'd take down the grocery list to make space." She nodded. "Seriously, good, because I want to put one there too." That night, after she went to bed, Daniel sent the files. Every photo was better than the last. Her face lit up, like it had caught fire from the inside. The way her hair blew slightly in the wind, the petals frozen mid-fall, the proud way she stood in her dress. It all looked like something out of a magazine spread. And not just because Daniel was talented, but because that day, Emma had been seen, really seen, not for what she was missing, not for what she didn't have, but for who she was, soft and steady, thoughtful and brave. I printed out the one where she was looking directly into the lens, lips parted slightly, like she was about to say something important. I taped it on the fridge, right next to Michael, and that old hose picture 2 moments. 2 snapshots of truth. One of the day she was lifted into the air, and one of the day she learned to stand on her own. The next morning, the first thing Emma did when she woke up was walk straight to the fridge. Her hair was still wild from sleep, and her pajama pants were too short at the ankles. But her face lit up when she saw it. Her photo, the one Daniel had sent over at midnight, printed, trimmed, and pinned neatly next to the one of her and Michael. The light coming in from the kitchen window landed right on her smile. She stood there quietly, studying it. "I like it," she said after a minute. "You should. You look like a superhero," I said, handing her a piece of toast. She smiled down at the photo again, then whispered, "I didn't feel like one yesterday." "You were one yesterday," I said. "You were brave." She took a bite of toast and leaned her head against my arm. "Did you tell Daniel thank you?" "I did," I said, "but I think he already knew." That afternoon, I got a call from the front office of the school. The secretary's voice was stiff, like she was reading from a script. She told me Miss S. Thompson had asked to speak with me. I asked if it was about yesterday. There was a pause, then a quiet. "Yes, I didn't go." I didn't need to hear her explain. I didn't want a rehearsed apology or some sanitized explanation of how policies or misunderstandings had led to what happened. I already knew what had happened, and more importantly, so did Emma. She had felt it. We don't need to be invited into every room to know our worth. Some rooms aren't built to hold the right people anyway. Instead, I printed 5 more photos. I gave one to Emma's art teacher, who had always encouraged her creativity. I mailed one to my mother, who cried when she saw it. I kept one for myself, tucked inside a book I'd been reading since Michael passed. One I hadn't been able to finish until now. Emma brought one to school. She didn't say much when she walked in that day. She tucked the photo into her folder, walked past Miss S. Thompson's classroom, and went straight to the library. Her art teacher told me later that she spent the whole lunch period drawing cherry blossoms around a camera, with the word scene written in big block letters at the top of the page. That weekend, I took her to the local print shop and had her drawing turned into a poster. We hung it on her bedroom door. A few weeks later, one of the other moms from school messaged me on Facebook. I saw the pictures Daniel took. Beautiful. I had no idea Emma was so photogenic. She's always been beautiful, I replied. She just needed the right lens. I didn't hear back, but I didn't need to. Because this story wasn't for them. It was for every kid who's ever been left out of the frame. For every parent who's watched their child shrink under the weight of someone else's judgment. For every girl who's been told she isn't enough because her shoes aren't new, or her dress isn't on trend, or her voice isn't loud. Emma didn't need a staged backdrop or matching outfits, or validation from people who couldn't see her in the first place. She needed someone to step in and say, "You matter, not because of what you wear, but because of who you are." Now, months later, that photo still hangs on our fridge, and every time I pass it, I think about the quiet power of being seen. It doesn't take a viral moment or a grand gesture. Sometimes, all it takes is a black car, a camera, and a friend who shows up when it matters most, and a girl who learns that her value isn't up for debate. She told me recently she wants to be a photographer someday. "I want to take pictures of kids who feel invisible," she said, "and make them feel like superheroes." I told her she already has, because long before she picked up a camera, she showed the world what it looks like to rise. And in a way, that's the most powerful picture of all.